Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week beginning the 15th of December. I'm going to share with you some of the standout developments of this week, then on screen the event chart on Monday, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll then go through those influences in detail to give us all a clear overview of what we can collectively expect. Please stay with me. I'll then go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. All your views, interactions, comments and likes are truly appreciated. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it to continue to thrive and do so now. Also, with year 2026 nearly upon us, have you watched your deep dive video for next year? Please see the link below for more. So as we come into this week, the mighty Mars, very much about desire and action, is going to make the transition from the free-spirited Sagittarius into the ambitious Capricorn, where he's going to be through to the 23rd of January next year. And this is a planet in Capricorn which is exalted. So I'm going to share with you what the implications of that is. Now on Saturday we have a new moon. New moons give us a wonderful opportunity to set our intentions. This is a complex new moon in the free-spirited Sagittarius, usually very much about expansion. Is that going to be possible this year? I think there are some catches. But on Sunday, as the cosmic curtain comes down on this week, the Sun is going to be moving signs, playing catch-up with Mars, moving into Capricorn and ushering in Cardinal Quadrant 4, the last quadrant or 13-week slice of the astrological cake. So it's a key event from that perspective, but what does the energy of Capricorn suggest we're going to experience in the latter part of this year? On the screen now I'm showing the event chart at the start of the week. Now Mars is going to be very important because before it moves into Capricorn on Monday, it's forging a great link with the moon. They're in the sign of Libra, very much about finding balance. They're linking in a collaborative way, but both of them are on bad terms with Neptune. Neptune is of course now in direct motion and it's going to be exiting the sign of Pisces on the 26th of January. So we're in the end phase of a huge circuit through the sky which began about 165 years ago. But Neptune in Pisces can be quite distorting, exaggerating. It can create illusion. So whether it's thinking about who we're going to be spending time with over the festivities, perhaps family members, and how we can manage that, the moon and Neptune, or where we want to be more decisive, perhaps around travel plans for the holidays with Mars, Neptune suggests that something that's not obvious could trip us up. So although Mars does move later on Monday into Capricorn, where it is exalted, the sign of Capricorn, the 10th zodiac sign, very much about tradition, structures, the establishment. So if you are someone who's very keen to achieve a goal towards the end of this year or early in 2026, Mars can certainly fire up that desire to make progress. But Neptune can also drain. So whatever it is that we set our hearts upon, we need to make sure that we're being realistic and it is truly achievable. Now I mentioned about this particular new moon being quite complex. Why is that? Well, it's Saturn and Neptune, because Saturn and Neptune have been squaring up with the Sun over the last week or so. Earlier in the month they were in a challenging angle to Mars, particularly Saturn, and therefore the energy of Sagittarius, which is usually so good for moving around, flexing, being a bit more spontaneous and bringing variety into our situations, may have been much more challenging to do that because our physical vitality may have been lower, or maybe there's been complications that have not been obvious. And I feel that that's what this new moon is about. So again, our desire to open things that can be strong, but we need to ensure, just like Mars's clash with Neptune earlier in the week, that whatever we set our hearts upon, we can actually achieve. So we need to be realistic, make sure we get clear information, because what we read or what we're being told may not actually be as accurate as it could be. But the Sun's return to Capricorn on Sunday, joining up with Mars, brings in a 4-week period, which is always an opportunity to get in contact with perhaps the more traditional dimension of the festivities. It's not so much just about gifts and so forth. It is about being with people that we care for, perhaps small but thoughtful gestures, particularly to help those who are less fortunate, because the sign of Capricorn maybe does understand that it's not always easy for others, because Capricorn can be very much to do with wisdom. So that's something to be mindful of. But the Sun, over this next 13-week period of that cardinal quadrant, is squaring off to also Neptune. So Neptune is a very underestimated influence. It can be to do with the subconscious, it can be to do with poisons, it can be to do with escapism, it can be to do with addiction, it can be to do with victimhood. All of those things can influence our desire to travel, be free-spirited, or aim for goals and ambitions that are important to us. So that's the big backdrop theme of this week. I'm going to go through each of the 12 signs now, but if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. Your week beginning the 15th of December sees your ruler Mars make its way into Capricorn. Although it's late in the year and not everyone's focus is on ambitions, whatever yours are can be crystallized from now through the first 3 weeks of the new year. And that's because later this week the Sun joins up with Mars, and next week Venus will join with them too. So we have a cluster of energy as you go into the new year and you end this one in the sign of Capricorn. So if you do have conversations this week, or you're planning anything, it may be to do with work or your connection to the world at large. So for example, if you have talents where you want to raise your profile, turn up the volume, this week with Mars particularly can give you a big push to go for it. What's not to like? Well, it's just that you need to make sure that there isn't any inner blockage within you that may inhibit your desire to seize a golden prize. So if you're doubting yourself a little bit, you're not sure about how other people feel about you, or you feel that something you've tried in the past didn't work out and it's dented your confidence, you're really being asked to go for it before 2025 comes to its close. So as you set your New Year's resolutions, if you do them, I think it is important to understand that you are in a parallel set of energies at the present time. On one hand, the Capricorn energies has given you a lot of thrust and determination to move forwards and to be more ambitious, assertive, show your leadership credentials, but there may be something from the past that you still need to work through, and the more you can release those old hurts, upsets, disappointments, particularly by the 26th of January when Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, your sign, that's going to be a very shrewd thing to do, because for all of us, even if someone's not physically in our space anymore, if they hurt us, they left us, disappointed us, that energy can live on for a long time. So if you can cut the cord on what does see you held back, that can free up the energy to go forwards in a very dynamic and ambitious way this week. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Taurus, your week beginning the 15th of December could see you getting a desire to do something different, freshen things up, be a bit more free-spirited. And that energy is going to be amplified as we come to the end of this week too. So even if you haven't made any formal plans to go somewhere different in the run-up to Christmas, or to spend time with people that you haven't seen for some while, you may find that a spurt of desire gives you just that push to be a bit more off the cuff. But also that ninth house energy, if you are actually traveling somewhere this week, that Mars is going to evoke for you, is terrific. You have a passion for the good things in life, and if you can experience those in a different location or culture or country, even if it's for a few days, that's going to be extraordinarily enriching for you. But because Mars into the ninth house can be also somewhat of a truth seeker, if there has been a friendship that's been a little bit confusing or uncertain, and you do feel that someone's weighing you down a little bit, perhaps with their energy, they may not be doing anything manifestly unpleasant. It's just perhaps not working quite for you. A need to be a bit more escapist can also come up this week. It could also be about a job or a lifestyle pattern that you have. So if you do find yourself towards the end of this year just doing things in a completely fresh way, that really wouldn't be a surprise. And in fact, although you have a reputation as someone who loves routine, can be quite adhered to them, and you have an appreciation of all of that, over the last years, since 2008, Pluto was pushing you to challenge your past tendency to stick with what you knew. And then more recently, over the last 7 years, Uranus has also been having that impact as well. So if you really have got a taste for doing things spontaneously and just being a little bit more fresh in your approach, those energies can call out to you this week for sure. But we do have that new moon, which occurs on Saturday in your 8th house. The 8th house can be about shared resources, it can be about financial investments, it can be about things like pensions and savings, but also things like legacies and inheritances. And if you are doing some planning for your future, perhaps with a partner, the fact that it's a new moon that does clash with both Saturn and Neptune, perhaps it's just a reminder not to be too idealistic, not try to squirrel away too much money, or not necessarily expect too much from any investments you make. But if you are thinking of doing something to do with business or money, just make sure that your facts are really clear, because with the swirling misty energy of Neptune in the mix and the more restraining energies of Saturn, what you're being told or briefed might not be quite to your advantage. So for example, if you were thinking about some kind of financial instrument, best to get more than one source of advice. Or if you're thinking about heading in a new direction with a business, talk to someone who's quite experienced, even if you are, because just a different view, a different perspective could actually be very helpful to you. And I think actually over the festivities you may find yourself being drawn to people who in the past wouldn't necessarily have been your cup of tea, but actually those connections can turn out to be very enriching indeed. And if you're single, it could see you sparking with someone who may not have been your past cup of tea, but could be your future spicy flavour. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Gemini, your week beginning the 15th of December does suggest it could be some confusion around a relationship situation, especially if you're wanting to assert yourself a bit more, or perhaps someone wants to assert themselves to you. But because your ruler Mercury is back into the part of your chart that's good for listening and forging a very helpful link to Pluto, very much to do with penetration, what you think about, if you take the time or to discuss, that helps you to ward off the confusing shimmering energies of Neptune in its square to Mars early on Monday can be helpful. And also Venus retains its location this week in the most diplomatic and harmonizing part of your chart. So even if you are feeling frustrated with someone, and that could be heightened by the new moon of Saturday, because of Saturn and Neptune being in a part of your chart, which is really about you being a bit more to the fore about what you feel strongly about. Whereas the energy in Sagittarius asks you to give and take a little bit more, and they're not quite working so well together. So it is a conflicted new moon, to be honest, and that may show up most of all at work, or where you have to connect with people that it's not a choice. And sometimes those relationships are the ones that we spend the most time around. However, by the end of this week, Sun's going to be playing catch up with Mars and diving deep into your 8th house. Now they're going to be joined in the week following this one by Venus. 8th house energy in a practical way can be about long-term finances, but it can also be about where we feel a desire to in some ways transform ourselves, but also we can have a need for a challenge. So if you are footloose and fancy free over the festive period and you are social, you may find some very intense but fascinating conversations, and you may even encounter someone right through to the 23rd of January that is rather irresistible, even if you don't initially like them, because of the intensity of the Sun and also Mars in your 8th house. But if you are wanting to do things financially towards the end of the year or early into 2026, I feel that these energies can be helpful, but just be aware that the need to discuss things and collaborate is coming from Mercury, and Mercury itself is going to be challenged by the end of this year by Saturn. So this potential for politics around relationships is still very much to the fore in your situation. Now in a long-term tie, maybe there's just a bit of a subtle shift going on, which can happen in all long-term relationship. Someone who may have been more supportive and perhaps a little bit more prepared to take a secondary role, whether that's you or someone else, may not want to play that role in the same way. They may want to put their point of view forward. So whatever you're trying to work with, it's a bit of a juggle between diplomacy and assertion this week. And as we go into the end of the year, just marshalling your desires, which can be heightened around improving your finances or finding more excitement around your love life. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Cancer, your week beginning the 15th of December is going to see Mars move into your 7th house through to the 23rd of January. Mars here can be more assertive when it comes to our interactions with others. If you have felt recently that you've been doing a lot, particularly around your work, being very conscientious, spinning lots of celestial plates, and it hasn't really seemed to have been appreciated by people, it wouldn't be a surprise. And Mars gives you the chance to say no, because sometimes it's important to set that boundary as much as use Mars's energy in the 7th house to be more proactive. If you're wanting to have connections with people, either socially over Christmas or perhaps even to meet someone, Mars can be helpful in that regard too. But the square with Neptune is intriguing because the new moon, which occurs on Saturday also connects to Neptune and Saturn too. And they're in the part of your chart to do with personal freedom, whereas the new moon is all about the obligations, responsibilities and chores that Mars is liberating you from right at the start of this week. So there may still be a sense that there's a lot for you to chomp through in order to enter into the festive period in better form. But the arrival of Cardinal Quadrant 4, the Sun's move into Capricorn with the winter solstice, is definitely a chance for you to look up, look around and think, who can I get together with? And that's going to be amplified in a very positive way in the week following this one, as Venus on the 24th of December plays catch up. So the last week of this year can be much more convivial for you, but I think this is a week when you may feel pulled in lots of different directions, but Mars gives you the chance, where needed, to say no. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. Leo, your week commencing the 15th of December sees Mars, the planet of action and passion, move into the practical 6th house as you enter the week. This is great if you do want to be more virtuous as you make your way into the new year. If you have been considering some very serious New Year resolutions, Mars can certainly give you the vigour and the stamina to go for it in a passionate way. But Mars moving into Capricorn is also about those daily practicalities, and we know at this time of the year there are a lot of things that we need to do. So Mars can help you to get through those, but it is initially challenged by Neptune, and that is a very potentially draining energy. In a romantic situation, if there is a little bit of confusion about someone's sincerity, it could show up with Mars moving at the start of this week. But the new moon, which occurs on Saturday, on the face of it, is a chance to really embrace the festivities and all the fun meetups to the maximum. But that too is clashing with Neptune and Saturn in that 8th house. If there is someone around you who tends to be very possessive or jealous or controlling, particularly if you are wanting to be a bit more free-spirited and just get into it, that could be something that grinds your gears a little bit. Now the Sun plays catch up with Mars by Sunday, moving into Capricorn, and will be joined, both of them, by Venus next week. So as you come into the end of this week, if you aren't particularly satisfied in a job you do at the present time, I think some of the conversations you have over the holidays may be about trying to drum up some new perspectives or ideas about what you can do. You're looking, I feel, for greater personal satisfaction, and you may want to do something that also helps other people. But if you are thinking about those refinements to your diet, to your exercise regime, beyond changing your work situation, or you want to get people immediately around you to take more responsibility for their role in the domestic load, all of those can be very much to the fore as you come to the end of this week. So you can have some fun with the new moon, but I just feel those cloying, clagging energies of Saturn and Neptune in the 8th house. If there is any politics that's inhibiting really just having or demonstrating that much more social, charismatic part of your nature, so if there's someone around you who isn't quite getting into it, that may be something that you will find yourself wanting to be a bit sharper and push back if they're not being as generous as they could be. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 zodiac signs. Virgo, your chart recently has seen a lot of focus and attention on home and emotional and family matters, and that's been emphasised by the return of your ruler Mercury back into Sagittarius. But Mercury actually forges a very strong link with Pluto at the start of this week. There is something that needs to be finessed, an organisation around a Christmas plan, that will definitely help. But Mars moves on Monday into a much friendlier, warmer and more ebullient part of your chart, because over the last 6 weeks or so you may have found that your emotions were a little bit bumpy at times. Moving into the 5th house, that's priming you up ready to get into the festivities. There is a new moon, however, later this week, which sees you again thinking more about that home and emotional strands, or perhaps relationships within your family union. And that's because of Neptune and Saturn being in a square with that particular new moon. New moons are obviously opportunities for improvements, but they aren't always set in cosmic stone, and because Saturn can be about limitation and Neptune can be about distortion, if there is someone that you're finding it difficult to collaborate with because they're resistant, they're evasive, they're cool or detached, and no amount of tuning into their needs from you has perhaps brought about the result you want, well, one of the things you can do from Sunday with the Sun's help and Mars too is to use your sense of humour, because if you become less concerned by their responses and just magnify your natural personality power, I feel that that's going to warm things up whether they like it or not. And in fact, next week, the week following this one, Venus is going to move into that 5th house as well. So between the end of this week and the end of the year, even if you have felt a little bit distracted by some inner doubts, concerns, anxieties, practical matters to do with where you live, you are going to be becoming much more outgoing, much more in the mood to mix and mingle and have some fun as the year comes to a close. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Libra, your week beginning the 15th of December has seen a lot of communication recently because of the cluster of energy in the sign of Sagittarius, which for you has sped things up. Mercury, the planet of talk and thought, arrived back into Sagittarius and starts this week in a very powerful link to Pluto. If there is something you want to say and it's very important to you, the chances are you can articulate it with passion and authority. But Mars, the planet of desire, does move into the 4th house on Monday too. It's going to be joined by the Sun, as usual, at the end of the week as we have the winter solstice. And each year when the Sun returns to Capricorn, it is a chance for you to just find those moments of peace and tranquility and rest. But because Mars and next week Venus are accompanying the Sun this year, I think your appreciation of familiarity and just being with the people who really matter, or having moments of complete quiet, are really going to call out to you. But wedged in between that is the hyperactive new moon in Sagittarius, which occurs on Saturday, and that is a backdrop energy which can last over the following month. So how do you juggle all this around? Well, I think it's possible because that new moon clashes with Saturn and Neptune, and Mars clashes with Neptune too, that if you have been feeling that your sacrifice, your industry, your hard work and conscientiousness has not really been appreciated, perhaps even by people very close to you, if there has been a sense of being taken for granted, I think by the end of this week you're going to be more outspoken, because you have a reputation for diplomacy and framing your words carefully, and that can be something you can still do. But I think the energy that develops by the end of this week in Capricorn is going to see you more earnest and perhaps blunter about saying it how it is, and particularly if you feel that someone somewhere, be it at work or home, has been taking you somewhat for granted. But the other thing to be mindful of, I feel, is the energy of Saturn and Neptune in your sixth house may have been affecting your vitality quite strongly over the last couple of years. And although they both moved into your sector of relating, where there may have been some changes for part of the past year, being back in the sign of Pisces is perhaps making you much more aware of where you need to conserve your energy, where you need to be much more conscious of your boundaries. So whether it's around your emotional exchanges, the practical side of life, or your work, just be conscious that as you come into the festivities, a need for rest is probably going to be to the fore of your thinking. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Scorpio, your week beginning the 15th of December is really exciting because your traditional ruler Mars moves on Monday into the part of your chart to do with movement. Now that movement can be physical, and many of us are visiting places over the festivities, but it can also prime up a desire to perhaps be more active towards the end of this year and certainly into the start of next year. We also have the Sun playing catch up with Mars towards the end of this week, so that sense of greater excitement and spark is going to be ignited. There is, however, the new moon on Saturday in Sagittarius, and if you have been grappling with financial issues of late, the foundations of your world, and perhaps just balancing the ins and outgoings around expenditure, always a tough hoe for many of us at this time of year when we may have a budget, but then of course we want to exceed it because we want to please the people that we love. And I feel that if you are finding your choices somewhat limited, try not to get too frustrated, because it's the connection with others that really matters. And the week after this one, Venus, the planet of relating, moves to join up with Mars and the Sun in your third house. And you could end up having the most convivial Christmas time that you've had for some while. And the compensations can go beyond the material. And if you have been waiting for news on an investment or something more speculative or a contract, yes, Saturn and Neptune can still be somewhat frustrating, but I think things will speed up before the end of this year, and that can create some excitement, some anticipation, priming you up to burst into the new year in fine fettle. But just be conscious with Mercury having arrived from your sign back into the second house of your situation. Mercury's great link to your modern ruler Pluto at the start of this week suggests if you just take a pause and analyse the details of a situation carefully, it could reveal a telling fact which is very valuable to you. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. Sagittarius, your week beginning the 15th of December sees your annual personal new moon. Always a glorious opportunity for us to animate and amplify whatever we're doing, which is very much to do with our individual talents. And also, even if you're someone who's very stylistic in your approach to how you dress, you may want to give yourself some kind of makeover or do some tweaks, which just gives you a greater sense of confidence as you go into the festivities. And it's going to be a year this year, I feel, when you want to enjoy all the good things to the maximum, and why not? And that's going to be helped by the fact that Mars punches its way into the second house of your chart on Monday. It's going to be there through to the 23rd of January next year. As you go into 26, the desire to do better around finances is going to be strong, but also about creating a firmer foundation for your life, but also appreciating your self-worth. That's going to be a big feature. But we do also have the Sun playing catch up with Mars later this week, which will help that process. But the new moon is conflicted by Saturn and Neptune. And if there is any lingering emotional, family or home-based issues which are needing to be addressed, as well as focusing on what you want to do as an individual, you may feel you're juggling a little bit. Or is there some inner energies which are preventing you from claiming your right to maximize your impact on other people? So don't doubt yourself this week, Sagittarius. I feel the last couple of years at times may have been somewhat bruising, but as you come into the end of this year, if you believe in yourself, that can convert into results. And all the effort that you put in, even if you don't see it financially, you can see it in how you view yourself. And if we view ourselves with value, other people will. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. Capricorn, your week beginning the 15th of December starts off in magnificent fashion. Mars, the planet of action, and the planet of thrust arise in your Zodiac sign and will be with you on from Monday through to the 23rd of January. It's going to help you to come into the moment. It is conflicted by the drifting, dreamy energies of Neptune, so you might not completely feel the uplift straight away. That's going to become more obvious at the end of the week when the Sun returns to your sign on the back of the winter solstice, and that really will see you start to gain traction, and that will be complemented by Venus's arrival in your sign in the week following this one. First house energy is about the here and now. It's also about wanting to take charge of things and initiate, but the 12th house energy of the new moon is quite complex because it is in a square on a Saturday with your ruler Saturn, and also that very ephemeral energies of Neptune. You can find yourself a lot more sensitive around conversations. Even if people are just chatting away, within you it could trigger memories. You may feel at times a little bit lacking in confidence, or it's possible that you could read or hear something that just feels a bit wounding, even if it's not intentional. But I think as the week following this one goes on, you will start to get into things. You will feel recharged, much more energetic, and that increased vitality can help you to enjoy all the best of this time of the year. But if you do find yourself at times this week just a little bit unsure, just know that Mercury, which has moved back into your 12th house, does forge a brilliant link with Pluto. So thinking deeply about something, perhaps reading or talking to someone that you're not sure about, could actually provide some clarity and also some reassurance. But the direction of travel is incredibly positive. But I think this week is a kind of transitional week where some of the more introspective and more sensitive energies which have dominated recently are not going to completely end, but you are certainly stepping into a time of the year which will show up before the year's end, when you're taking centre stage and just showing people just how charismatic but also how much great fun you can be to be with. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. So Aquarius, your week beginning the 15th of December is going to see a new moon in the part of your chart that's to do with your network, your connections. Perfect for this time of the year. But Mars dives deep on Monday, moving into your 12th house. It's going to be joined by the Sun on the winter solstice at the end of the week. So even though that new moon is there, I think what this really suggests is, as much as you may be drawn to certain people, it's probably going to be the people that you feel most comfortable with. Now, I know that's true of all of us, but I think at this time of the year, many of us can be a little bit more free-spirited about who we meet up with, but I think for you, it's very much about quality over quantity. So if you don't feel quite in the mood to accept an invitation to a lively event and you'd rather go out with one or two friends that you know well, then that's going to be perfectly in keeping with the astrology. In fact, Aquarius, right through to the third week of January, when the Sun moves into your sign, and we are going to have a posse of energy in Aquarius manifesting as the month goes on, you're going to be reignited in a spectacular way at that time. But from now really through to then, there may be moments when you do actually want to just retreat a little bit. And obviously that does sound somewhat counterintuitive. It is something that many Aquarius people can relate to at this time of the year, but because Mars and Venus are in the 12th house, you may find yourself, Venus from next week, you're much more nostalgic. You may even be feeling very whimsical about people from your past. The chance of some kind of reunion could be that much stronger, but also the chance to have some quiet moments of peace and relaxation. So as much as this can be a very demanding part of the year, and it's possible that you may be up for those connections, if you're not, if you're feeling that much more delicate, don't beat yourself up about it. It's absolutely fine. But one of the things you can do with that new moon is think about your long-term future, particularly if you're not feeling at the moment that you're on the track you want to be. So if there does need to be some realignment over the following month, together with those quiet moments of reflection, you can recalibrate that long-term plan in a way which is really fitting for how you feel you are now compared to who you used to be, because we can often reach a target and then when we get there we're not the same person. So I think there is some big shifts going on, but you can have some sociability, but I think it needs to be with the people you feel a real sense of deep connection. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs. Pisces, your week beginning the 15th of December, brings to a climax a lot of energy around your connection to the world, and that's with the new moon. New moons are a chance to set our intentions, but so late in the year, a 10th house new moon is tricky because obviously a lot of people won't be working quite as much through the holidays or are deflected by the season's festivities. But if you still want to seize a golden prize, you can, but it may be your powers as a collaborator and a networker that are going to be so helpful to progress. And Mars helps that from Monday, punching its way into the 11th house of your chart. Mars in the sign of Capricorn really can shine. It gives the more cautious energies of Capricorn an energy boost. But what Mars in the 11th house helps us to do is juggle our need for individual attention, Mars, with collaboration with others, the 11th house. But it is tangling with Neptune in your zodiac sign. If you have got some concerns about your connections to certain people you work with, they could show up. Now later in the week, on Sunday, the Sun plays catch up on the winter solstice, moves into Capricorn as well, and undoubtedly the festivities racing towards us, that's a great timing. And they both will be complemented by Venus in the week following this one. So it could be a more friendly and social festive period than you might imagine, and you may spend some of it with people that you work with. But if you are still focused on making progress around a goal or ambition, don't give up on that, but just know that Saturn in your sign and Neptune in Pisces too are clashing with Mars at the start of the week and with that new moon. So if you're not completely clear in terms of your strategy, you've got some self-doubts, or you're working with people who don't quite get how you're more individual than they are, particularly if it's a big organisation, that would be understandable. But a great way to proceed this week is definitely to celebrate the things we have in common. So even if someone isn't completely your celestial cup of tea, a little bit of winter cheer and generosity can melt someone's frosty exterior. So it's all there for you, but it's not too late, I feel, Pisces, to still have some kind of business or professional breakthrough. But that social, more friendly and festive energy is calling out to you, but particularly from the end of the week. But if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get your life roadmap chart as well, and interpretation. These are totally unique to each person. There is 30% off, and also you'll get my free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the year ahead for each of the 12 Zodiac signs.